Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today, along with trying a new intro style, zooming in on a player and showing you that. Let me know what you think about that down below in the comments. We're going to be taking a look today at Forge. Wow, okay, I didn't see all these drawings on the map. Anyway, taking a look at Forge today. Forge version 1.4. Lava map, to say the least. You can see there's these big lava pools lurking just below the surface of Forge. And if any nukes go down or any sort of explosions, it can indent the floor, leaving behind lava puddles that can cause disruption and dismay. So why don't we meet our contestants today playing on Forge, spawning on the western half. For our blue team, we have Figus. Figus the Conqueror, the champion, the bold and the brave, going to be representing our blue team today with this brilliant bright blue player that we are used to seeing on the top true skill player for each team. 30 true skill and the chevrons to match it. Figus definitely knows what they're doing on Forge and going to be showing us exactly that they came here to play. Going for this resbot first, just to eat up all these crystals. It can be a huge energy gain. The resbot does about 50 reclaim a second, as you can see here. About closer to 60, really. So that's about 60 energy per second, more or less, that you're going to be pulling into your economy. And that can be more than enough to power out quite a lot of units, structures, you name it. So it's really important to get that up and going just as soon as you can. We've got the construction bot out too, and hopefully we're going to see, we're seeing a construction turret. Okay, going for these geothermal plants is really important as well. Super efficient way of getting a massive energy boost early on into the early game. That's what I mean to say. But let's meet our other player here. Today, spawning in the eastern side, the red player, red team leader, iBox. A mixture of the Xbox and iRobot. We have iBox. It is sentient and it is aware, and it is going to sell you some Xbox exclusive games. iBox going to be representing their team with a bot lab on the front lines, and we've already got a Blitz moving across the map. Wow, that's rare to see, but yeah, I think Blitz might win the award for the first unit out and about on the map, although it hasn't gone out and about yet, so maybe a little premature here. We might see somebody still claim that award. Yeah, the Blitzes are thinking about it. Dirac doing an excellent job of pushing forward here with the commander to make sure that nothing is going to be able to get this advanced, or this high yield rather, metal point here. You can see 4.5, absolutely huge on the economy. You can make a tremendous amount of resource with these metal nodes down here. So it's much more important to contest these metal spots than it is on a normal map where it's more spread out. These specific points become really valuable. But I love what Dirac is doing here, setting up a defensive line. Not worried about trying to claim this metal extractor, but making sure that it's going to be really difficult for someone else to. And then we're going to go back and we're going to put our own metal extractor down, which is really nice. I love to see that. First unit out on the field? I don't know. Okay. Don't get to hand out of the ward. Nobody snuck one through to try and get a bit of harassment in the early game here, so I don't think I can rightly award the Brightworks official get a unit out on the field award today. If I had to give it away, though, I think it handed to iBox for, at the very least, getting these blitzes out and about very quickly on the front lines. We've also seen some Janus come out now. Janus, very powerful. We all know just how devastating those twin rocket launchers can be. iBox deciding to upgrade the economy here, going for one of these metal extractors, which is really nice. This is interesting. We usually see this position is contested more by the player in iBox's spot right here. This is turning into a three-player lane right here, whereas usually what we see is... oh, that's very kind. Dirac actually handed over the metal extractor to iBox here, which I think is absolutely the right move. Yeah, Dirac has all of these metal extractors back here, which means that iBox needs this metal extractor rather desperately. And so indeed, now that this has gone down, the economy is going to scale quite a bit nicer. And I would love to see these power plants coming up soon. We already see a power plant on the way for Figus, working on getting this geothermal power plant up. If you take a look here, you can see 560 metal for 300 energy. That's about 1.5 the cost of an advanced solar collector, but for nearly a little more than 3 times the energy, right? 300 versus 75. So it's super worth it to get these geothermal power plants up and about as quickly as you can. Getting these down is going to fuel the economies of not only you, but your entire team, because you just can't even spend that much energy early on in the game, short of having a ton of energy converters here. Let's do the math, actually. If these take 70 energy a second, let me pull up my calculator here. If we take 300 energy and we divide that by 70, we're going to end up with about 4.2 energy converters. So let's call it 4 energy converters here per advanced, or per geothermal power plant. That's going to give you enough energy conversion to keep up with the production rate of these geothermal power plants. But of course, you can always also just be sure to use that energy to produce units, just like we see on the front lines here. Dwarven Stout. Brilliant bearded woman going to be pushing forward here and contesting this lane, but you can see already just how impactful Jirak pushing forward early like this has been. We can see that denying this metal spot here has been really, really beneficial. Now this metal spot has been producing just as well over here, by the way. Keeping that metal spot under contention has stalled out at least 4.5, almost, well, basically up to 9 metal per second going into the blue economy, which can really add up, especially in this early game. If we take a look up north, much less so. Looks like right here, this is basically an even split, although Dead Prof has actually done a phenomenal job claiming the forward metal extractor point. Although it is exposed, it is not being crushed by Cheaper. Chapper? Anyway, hasn't been crushed by Chapper, which is going to be, yeah, it's going to be a lot more money heading back into Dead Prof's economy than currently Cheaper is going to have in their back line. Some early gunships are out. That's interesting. We don't see these very often, but yeah, this is a really interesting strategy. We're actually managing to take down some of the economy here. One of the gunships does fall, but there's still one with 2% health remaining. It's going to try and do a little more damage, but I think the commander will eventually be enough to mop this up. Ooh, it's getting stuck a little bit, but it does finally fire a laser blast right through the central command console of that gunship and take it down. Love that early game aggression. Love how quickly it comes out here on Forge. Version 1.3. Artillery now for both sides, being sure to shell away as much as possible. We can see the front line slowly being dismembered by Dwarven Stout here, Jirak's front line, I should say. But yeah, the Rocketeers actually jump in on these artillery units here and start to siege them quite nicely. Now the blitzes do come in, and they start to cause problems here. Jirak forced to retreat the units, loses a lot of them here. But certainly we're going to be able to start production a little bit more here. Yeah, we need more energy. I think advanced solar collectors are probably the way to go here. Also geothermal. We don't have any geothermal up for the orange player here. That's kind of surprising. We are eating a ton of energy crystals here. Sounds like sounds a little suspect, doesn't it? Boy, I could sure go for some energy crystals. The army for the red team, or the red player though, has pushed forward. The red player on the red team has pushed forward and has dismantled a whole lot of the army here for the green player of the blue team. Guess I should say that every time, or maybe not. That might be a little cumbersome. But yeah, we can see that all of these units are crushed right here, meaning that at the very least, this push forward to cripple Jirak's front line is going to be halted, or at the very least slowed down here. Similarly, Jazonk has a nice little push down here, going to be caving in on the blue team, and the red team up north is also looking dominating. Huge bombing run to continue harassing Scary Rabbit. A couple of bombers do make their way into the back lines here. There is some light anti-air turrets. These are going to happily take down some of these planes that were not told to bomb this base. They said that would be too mean if we bombed the same, or if we bombed more than one player per turn. That'd be really, really mean. Really, really painful thing to do. So of course we're not going to do that. We're not savages here. We're just robots fighting an infinite war. Now these Rocketeers being really, really devastating. Apparently it takes 5 Rocketeers, or aggravators, to burst down a single shell shocker here. Single T1 artillery vehicle. So that's good to know for your reference in the future here. This Janus actually is recharged. Didn't expect that, but it will fire and does manage to take out a laser turret for its efforts. Oh, that Janus got one more shot off too. That really hurts. Man, every shot those Januses take, you just know something is about to die. Some artillery lands on top of a light laser turret, slowly whittling down Jazonk's full force here. Jazonk's push left a bunch of metal to be reclaimed here, but honestly, you don't even need it on a map like this because there's so much metal that you can pull out of the ground to push into these units here. We've got Resbots coming up to the front line to eat up all of this juicy, juicy metal. You can see about 700, a little more than that in this reclaim field here, and 1,500 metal left from these tanks that were guarding this field as well. So Yeah, tons of metal to pull off the front lines. These armies up north are looking really strong. We've got loads of aggravators here, the rocket bots, the Cortex rocket bots. We've got tons of grunts as well. Dead Prof being sure to expand the economy back here. Are we going up to T2? I think it's about time we step up to T2. We've got a menacing army on the front lines. We're basically holding without effort, and we have plenty of time to spare here. Loads of metal tied up in T1 solar panels, about 300 by my approximation. About 300 metal tied up in T1 solar panels, and we could definitely see a transition to T2 anytime soon. I guess we're going to reinforce the army a little more. I don't hate that either. That could definitely be valuable. A little bit of metal on the front lines, only about 200. Not really worth risking a reclaim bot. These grave robbers cost 110 metal, so as long as you can reclaim that much out of whatever they reclaim, I suppose it's worth it. But it's always going to be better to keep your units alive. Now Gauntlet has come up here, and it's going to start shelling away at these units for quite a while here. We can see it has effective range over all of this stuff. This is actually a really nice position for this because it can deny both of these metal extractors, and I think that's absolutely what it should be doing here. It looks like it's a little confused about what it actually wants to be firing at. It's just kind of firing at whatever it can. But you know, it's damage over time, and it's hard to turn that down. So this gauntlet here is actually really nice. I think I quite like to see that. We are up to T2 on the front lines here. We can see that Bear Juice has gone up to T2 without getting any of these geothermal plants. Just a word of advice here. If you are playing as the front line here and you notice the player over here hasn't built these geothermal plants, feel free to build them for them because it's absolutely worth having those down for your team. Even if you just hold on to them and you don't give them away, if they're not going to claim them, you absolutely better build them because that's a ton of energy right at your disposal. Super, super valuable. Baldy, the player that was going for those early bombing runs, has switched into Tech 2. That's a very nice transition that we've got here. Yeah, we can see we're just leveling up our metal extractors, and we're going to eat up the lab. That's very nice to see. We do have a metal storage, so we're going to be able to hold all that metal in while we upgrade all of our economy. Hopefully we see some of those T2 bots handed over to the teammates eventually, or maybe just we continue teching up at a tremendous rate. I would also love to see these T1 solar panels eaten up. You guys know how much I hate those T1 solar panels. We could eat the bot lab, we could eat the solar panels, we could even eat a few of the advanced solar panels. I don't think we need quite this many, about 800 energy production. Certainly valuable, but it is feeding these energy converters after all. But yeah, maybe not as critical to have those up and running as getting the T2 lab up and about. What would have been ideal here is that we just get a T2 from the player back here, from Baldy. We just buy a T2 off of them, then we don't have to do the whole tech transition here to get a T2 economy up and running. That would have been absolutely ideal, but definitely not necessary. We do have a T2 vehicle, Armada vehicle player back here, so I'd love to see a combat engineer handed out to these frontline folks. They're going to be able to build a lot of those hounds or gunslingers, or even recluses could work really nicely on this map. You just send them over this little dome area and they pop up on the other side. Whatever it may be, you can use those in order to get a tremendous advantage here. Handing out some Twitchers might be a good idea as well. Hand over a few of those to iBox just to help him get the economy up and running. Building the advanced geothermal plant, these are also super efficient. They give 1,250 energy for, like, what is that, like a third of the cost of a little less than a third of the cost of, or no, a little more than a third of the cost of a regular fusion plant. Super, super efficient to build those. Of course, they're highly explosive. You can see the range of this would essentially wipe out the entire base if we build this thing. But it's probably worth it for the risk to have that much energy at our fingertips. Looks like a T2 constructor was handed over to iBox, which is really, really nice to see. Again, yeah, I think if we hand over that T2 constructor and then we hand over a combat engineer, iBox is suddenly going to have a T2 army at their disposal, which is going to be super, super devastating. We can see the front lines here are basically set in stone. We have loads of production here. And a Cerberus was built here on the geothermal spot in order to shell away with these high-energy plasma shots. These things actually do a tremendous amount of damage, and they can fire 3 times. They have 3 charged shots that they can shoot. Really, really powerful stuff. The Cerberus can definitely do a ton of damage. It is sort of blocked here by this radar unit here, this radar tower. And yeah, these are very, very difficult to deal with. The Cerberus, I mean, not the radar tower. The Cerberus wants nothing more than to shoot at this massive clump of units here, but it just can't because it's afraid of hitting this radar tower. The radar tower is necessary for that vision, right? But we don't need it. There it goes. It finally decides to shoot the radar tower down so it can fire over here. Yeah, sacrificable for sure. Sacrificial radar tower. Down south, these armies are continuing to be an absolute menace from Jirak. We have another Cerberus built over here, and yeah, these things are so devastating. The option to build these massively powerful artillery structures at the T2 stage on top of strategic geothermal plants, especially on maps where geothermal plants are prevalent. I think a Cerberus over here might be really powerful as well, maybe one back here. I don't know, wherever you can throw them down on the front line, they can be absolutely devastating. They do also produce energy as well, not a lot, but 450 energy, I mean, it's better than nothing, right? Yeah, super powerful. We do have a bunch of Twitchers coming out here. Tons and tons of Twitchers coming out on the front lines, and then we also have some Sumos pumped out right behind them, which I think is really nice. Do we have anything else? No, we're just building some Sumos. Absolutely the right call. Those Sumos are super tanky, and they can push into these armies really nicely. At this point, a bunch of T1 medium tanks actually jump on top of a lot of this artillery, taking down these metal extractors, which is way more important in games like this, where those metal extractors are sort of strategic points rather than when they are sort of spread out all over the place. So taking down even a single metal extractor pays for one of these tanks being sacrificed in the back lines here. We do find a geothermal plant, but what they're really aiming for is this massive economy center right here. Tons of energy converters, just 2 hits, 3 hits, and this all lights up. Does tons of damage to everything around here, even blows up a advanced solar collector. Ooh, then they do find this. What a chain reaction waiting to happen. Oh, these tanks are attacking the wrong thing. Oh no, go after the advanced ones, no! Okay, these tanks, a little bit of miss micro here. Those tanks could have blown up the advanced geothermal plant, and that would have been absolutely devastating. They're trying to blow up these turrets. They could blow up this one. Okay, little bit of an ABM stall there by iBox, who was focused on other things apparently. Could have been really devastating. Instead, it was just a minor annoyance. Luckily for Figus. But that being said, we do have bulls out on the front lines now. We do have a huge army pushing forward here, and we don't have really anything to stop these bulls. All of these maces are going to be pulled apart, although we are splitting them nicely. As long as they're split, they're going to be a lot harder to kill. But a lot being subjective, right? It's still going to only take 2 or 3 shots from a bull to melt a single one of these. The commander comes forward. That's a better option here. D-gun some of those down. That's really powerful. On the back line, it looks like Baldy has gone for a nuclear launcher, so that's kind of what we're thinking about right now. An anti-nuke is being thrown up, but it's going to take a long time, so I feel like that nuke might actually connect, find a really nice position here. Meanwhile, these units have again pushed into the backline of Figus, who is now dealing with a tremendous force right on his doorstep. Really troublesome stuff. And what is the solution here? I don't know. The commander is basically the only unit we have left. Gonna have to D-gun all those units. For what it's worth, that was a phenomenal D-gun. Commander in a lot of trouble here. 3%, 0%. Ooh, and we just barely survive with 22 power to our, or 22 health to our name. And a lot of these units just attacking nowhere over here. Sumo continue to march forward. They can be kited around by these hounds really nicely though, so these are definitely a good option for dealing with them. These units get their act together, and they're going to start contributing to this fight a little bit more. Trying to shoot down some of these Sumos. Hounds do a good job of dismantling this, and for the time being, Uncle Crow, oh no, has managed to hold on to this position here. Contribute enough forces down south to stabilize this a little bit, although more and more units are coming out here. If some of these spy bots could detonate, if a single spy bot could detonate on this group of hounds, that would be completely crippling. Yeah, that could do a tremendous amount of damage. At this point, how are we looking on a macroscopic scale? I mean, the red team is at a huge advantage overall. Come on, we need to stun these hounds with the spy bot. That's really what we're counting on here. The micro on the hounds is slipping. Of course, that's because this player is playing on both fronts here. We're playing north and south at this point. Figus has been completely crippled, basically removed from the game. I mean, there's very little production left. We have the commander desperately trying to rebuild some build power back here. And it's all we can hope to see as these units are pushing closer and closer here. It looks like a spy bot did end up going off over there. Very nicely done. Do we have any more? We have another one back here. I think it's about time to bring this to the front lines. Gunslingers brought out here to try and shut some of this down, and I think it's very nice. Gunslingers are very survivable, very tanky. Well, not very tanky, I guess you should say. Survivable was the right word, because they can engage and then they can retreat, and they can engage and they can retreat. But they don't, in and of themselves, have a tremendous amount of health behind them, so that's definitely an important distinction here. Commander goes up. Figus' commander goes up in smoke, leaving behind a bloody red lava pool and the wreckage of a commander. sitting inside of it. And yeah, that's pretty devastating. Now Fiends are getting into the backline here. The reason it's so important for this dark green player to contest this is, of course, because that blue player's base is inextricably connected to theirs. They are basically playing as the same player. They're one team. They're one mind. The pilots are linked together by the neural handshake. The neural three-way handshake. But anyway, these hounds are trying their best to mop up all these units, but these Fiends are really difficult to deal with. I would love to see these switch to their alternate mode, switch those into Gauss mode. You're going to have a little bit more success here. We don't really have a tiebreaker here. Like, we don't have a way to get out of this situation. That's the real problem, as far as what I can see. Basically, all of the frontline players have been pushed in, meaning that the red team's frontline is just going to be continuing to expand, continuing to grow. We can see we're throwing down metal extractors right on the enemy's face here. Things are not looking very good. Not looking very optimistic for the blue team here. We're going to have to see some sort of tremendous play in order to deal with this. Nuclear bombers have been pumped out here. We are going to target the advanced geothermal plants. No anti-air to speak of over here. Yep, I don't see any, that's for sure. Yeah, go, no, go for the advance. Yeah, there we go. This is absolutely devastating here. Nuclear bomber is spotted, and there's nothing we can do. Boom, and that entire base lights up. That was absolutely beautiful. Mwah. Piece of artwork right there. Absolutely well played by Baldy. Getting that nuclear bomber out, targeting exactly the right facility, and that is all of the middle of the map for the blue team, completely wiped off of the face of Forge. We can see the green player has already tapped out. Figus is staying in the game, although no one has given them a commander yet, or a constructor rather. So there's no way for them to deal with that. Commander pushes forward here, wipes out a big chunk of that army, but not all of it. There's still plenty of Fiends to push forward into here. Heavy laser turrets doing their best, but it's not enough here. Those are just T1 defenses. Those Fiends aren't particularly strong as far as health goes, but they can do so much damage, and they're so quick that they really confuse those heavy laser turrets, force them to turn around and retarget and aim all over the place, and it causes a tremendous amount of pain. We have some medium mines here. Going to be enough to burst down these Razorbacks every time that they step on them. We also have some Sabo batteries out, which are even better at bringing down those Razorbacks here. And you can see just how quickly these will melt under all this static defense. Like it's nothing, those Razorbacks fall. Super expensive unit, and they're just lost. Like they're basically worth nothing on this front line. This is a little better, finding some T1 units to engage with here. Trying to push into these Sheldon, but the Sheldon, they're amassed in so many numbers here, so great an amount that there's really not much this Razorback can do. Every 2 that it kills, there's 4 more to take their place, and things are not looking good for the blue team here. Dwarven Stout trying their best to eco up here. It's hard to do. We're trying to produce units and eco at the same time, which never ends up working out very well. At this point, we have 3,000 energy. We have these are just T1 energy converters. We definitely need to start up some T2 energy converters if we're looking to eco a little bit harder here. But really, without all this metal being produced on the front of the map, this game is over. This match is done. There's such a tremendous economy lead here. In fact, if we take a look at the statistics, we'll take a quick glance here. Metal produced. You can see metal produced is already up by almost 200,000 for the red team, and it's only going to continue growing as the advantage in the middle of the map continues to scale. These are advanced geothermal plants, so you know, a single bomber right through here would be completely devastating. Could absolutely ruin all hope of survival for both of these bases right here. That's really the fulcrum of this map, is when you can blow up those advanced geothermal plants. It resets those middle of the map players here. I just noticed that orange queued a bunch of metal extractors all over the map. I'm not sure which constructor it was queued with, but one of them was told to go build metal extractors everywhere that they possibly could, which is quite funny. Here he is. So let's just go build as many advanced metal extractors as you can. Interesting place for a nuke. Screw that metal extractor in particular. Not sure exactly what was over here that we were aiming for. Maybe we thought there was a bunch of anti-air defenses here. Fortunately, I suppose, for Dwarven Stout, there was no tremendous investment. Kind of an interesting spread of windmills here. Tons of Mauser. It's actually a huge Mauser army. Yeah, you can see those things are actually really devastating. They can do a crazy amount of damage here. they'll happily fire down upon these Sheldon and completely wipe them off the map. Ooh, that was so beautiful. I'm so glad I caught that right there. Nuke comes in from left field, or right field, I guess you should say, wipes away that massive army of Mauser that had been building for so long here. And with that, Green's production is set back so far. We can see the anti-nuke was not up in time. There's one back here to protect the core of the base, but yeah, that little area was exposed. Man, that was a great nuke. Completely disassembling the entire Green army here. Dwarven Stout must have inherited this base over here, otherwise it's a bit odd that they went for the T2 vehicle and the T2 bot lab. But anyways, we are producing a few T2 vehicles. We also have an anti-nuke coming up over here. This base actually isn't produced by, or isn't protected by anti-nuke, so that's one vulnerability. Same back here. We have an anti-nuke up, but it isn't charged yet, so if we could land a nuke back here, that'd be really devastating. We might be able to clip the edge of this base as well and do a lot of damage just because that anti-nuke is so far forward. Kill this anti-nuke. Yeah, that's a good idea. We should definitely kill that anti-nuke. This army marches forward. They realize that with all of those Mauser completely destroyed, there's not a whole lot to hold back these Sheldon. Even though they are a siege unit, they're going to be used like a assault unit here. The resurrected Razorback. Well, that's a tongue twister. Say that 3 times fast. Going to be pushing in here, and I don't think there's much to stop this. No static defense, certainly. And yeah, the Razorback is suddenly right here on the front line. Ooh, shoots down that Twilight before it gets a chance to fire. There is some flak vehicles here to tear down these Hornets. That's quite nice for the red player. Razorback, of course, serves as a sort of a poor anti-air, but an anti-air nonetheless. And the Razorback does find the anti-nuke that was built back here. Yeah, I think that was enough to discourage this team. And the blue team finally taps out. Very, very nicely done by the red team here. Really nice to see some really aggressive play. Once you've won the middle of this map, there's really not a whole lot more as far as comeback mechanics that the other side can do. And I really, really love to see it. Hey, if you have an epic game like this and you'd love to send it on over, you can always send it to me at Brightworks Replays. That's Brightworks Replays at gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to take a look at your replays and see what you have to show me. Love some interesting games, love the long ones, love the short ones, love all sorts of games that you have to share. I hope you enjoyed watching this cast, and if you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe for daily posts, twice daily posts actually. And I hope to see you in the next video. Peace out.